Annkio Briggs joins us now. She's a Niger Delta activist who was also present yesterday. She's here today. Thank you for coming out this morning.
Hi, good morning.
Well, interesting to note the views of Alhaji Baibu Musa. Well, he's talked about what his idea of what the summit may be about or should be about. What's yours?
Well, I mean, it's for us, it's a very clear-cut situation right now. There is no beating around the bush. That what we have today as a constitution is actually a military decree. It is actually referred to as a military decree 2024. And we know how that came about. And it has not worked for Nigeria. There is a lot of things that the so-called constitution has not provided for Nigerians. And it is a false document when it says we the people of Nigeria, because we the people of Nigeria did not sit down. And it doesn't matter what it is called. What we're saying is that Nigerians must have the time and space to sit down together as a people of Nigeria and agree on ways and the method of which we're going to move this country forward into the century that we are in today. With the way Nigeria is right now, it is not in the present. Nigeria is in the past. Nigeria is in the colonial days. Nigeria is in the hands of the military, if
Only
you like.
and simply because of our constitution?
Well, yes, because you see, the constitution is the rules and regulations, if you like, that determines what laws we're supposed to abide by. And if those laws are anti-people, if those laws are not working for people, different people that make up Nigeria, as I said yesterday at the conference, gladly and by the grace of God, I remember independence. I remember the years leading up to independence. And I remember the old national anthem, which says, though tribe and tongue may differ. So we accepted at some point that we are different people that make up Nigeria. And within 50 years, we're being told that we should not even mention that anymore.
Who actually, you said, I heard you say it very clearly yesterday that you're going to go by the words of the very first anthem, that the tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood,
in brotherhood we stand.
The question is, who wrote us that national anthem?
Well, I mean, that national anthem, from what I remember, was written by a Nigerian. I don't think that it was written by a foreigner. But even if it was written by a foreigner, the fact is that are we a people that have different tongues and are made up of different tribes? And do we really want to, or do we today stand in brotherhood? This is the question that we should be asking ourselves.
The reason why that is important is someone will say, some people have argued that it's because we have not put the words of the Constitution into practice, that we are all saying that it doesn't work for us, or it hasn't worked for us. Have we gone by the words of the tenets of the book that we hold as our Constitution?
Okay, let me just take one part of the Constitution that affects me from my position and my people's position, because that is what discussion is. You present your case, your desires, and I present mine. Now, we disagree to agree, or agree to disagree, or agree and agree. Now, the point of the Constitution that affects my people very disastrously is the point that says that all resources that is found on the land belongs to federal government. This actually now is applied only to the Niger Delta resources. You see, we are raising these points because that is the way it is affecting us. Other people should raise the points that is affecting them. We must, if we want Nigeria to move forward, and to actually, Nigeria can stay together, has the capacity, is the greatest and largest black nation in the world. That alone itself means that you and I must make sure that we are able to stand and lead the rest of the black world. But right now, because of corruption and because of bad governance, and because of wrong people in right places, if you like, or wrong people in wrong places, or there is no right people out there, actually, as far as I'm concerned, in governance. And until we take a hold of the government and change the government in a way that will work for us as a people.
Isn't it ironic that now we're no longer practicing, or we're not in military regimes, so we have people as governors who are also indigenous from that particular state. Specifically, if you talk about your region, you talked about the governors also are comfortable with that section of the Constitution. To even make matters worse, so the president is also from the region. Don't you think that they don't see anything wrong in all of that? That is why they have decided to let that particular section of the Constitution be, because if for anything, it is oil for today. What if tomorrow it comes and it has to be with another region providing that particular thing that will feed the entire nation?
That is the question that we today are asking from the Niger Delta, because the Constitution today is the way it is written, as it refers to resources, is not applied anywhere else. There are mineral and solid mineral resources all over Nigeria. It's been proven. But why are we exploring only one? Why are we not exploring all the others that are dotted around Nigeria? That is the question. And when we ask that, for instance, in my region, the Niger Delta region, and we say the governors are from the state. Of course, my governor is from my state, Rivers State. Another person from Bayelsa cannot come and be a governor of Rivers State right now until the constitution is changed. Then that can be possible. But the point is, today we have a PDP government. For instance, let me just take it to party politics. We have PDP government. PDP has said, how does a party get up to say we will rule, not even govern, not even serve Nigeria, we will rule Nigeria for the next 60 years? It's unbelievable. So his grandchild, whoever said that, his grandchild can come and rule Nigeria, quote. So this thing is about a system that is wrong for Nigeria. PDP is one of the worst things, apart from corruption, as far as I'm concerned, that has happened to this country, because they run this country as if it belongs to PDP. The people are the owners of this country and should be the owners of the government, and not PDP.
You just put the blame on the Constitution. So if they abide by the Constitution, then these are people who should be commended for following the Constitution through and through.
If they abide by the Constitution, then we will not care what party it is. If the people's constitution is on ground, what is on ground in Nigeria today is not a people's constitution. And this is the problem. We must have an opportunity to have a people's constitution.
You made a point, sorry Chamberlain, you made a point as to resources, the way the part that talks about resources in the Constitution is only being applied currently to the Niger Delta. I was going to ask that if this was applied, say, equally, say, resources were being mined and exploited in many other parts of the country, would that be fine by you?
Of course, totally. What are we talking here? Of course, totally. If everybody is bringing something that they have, the way Niger Delta people are bringing oil and gas, then the issue of injustice as we see it and experience it will not arise, because others are also bringing. So even if we want to say it, we will no longer be justified. But right now we are very much justified to focus on that issue.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong here, because from what I've heard, a lot of people push canvas is that they want to bring, you also talked about it now, things that affect them to the table. Am I presumptuous if one were to say that, is this just about us in terms of dividing into our own selfish interests, as opposed to what will work for us as a country? Are we bringing it forward with the mindset of the country working? Because if I remember properly, former American President Bill Clinton, he says he's been able to achieve more for himself and perhaps for his own people also by doing what he feels will benefit his country much more. He couldn't do that when he was president. So if we're bringing up things that concern us, this is how we want to live, we come to dialogue about it, when we get back, we'll be looking out for our own interest. Is that going to make us come together with a view to making the country work?
Yes, it will. Because you see, we will all approach the building of Nigeria on equal footing. It doesn't matter what your region is. It shouldn't matter what your tribe or your language is. We are all equal, and nobody is feeling cheated, and nobody is cheating the next person. So it's like it becomes brothers that are not of the same mother or father, but there is that unifying force, which is that we are of the same either mother or father. But you see, that has to be developed. That love, that affection, that unity that you can't break because it's bound by blood.
This conference can work that.
Yeah, well, they call for sovereign. This conference itself is not the sovereign national.
No, I mean the proposed one where we all come together.
Well, I believe so, because I will not associate myself or give my time to anything as a person in what I don't believe. What this has given me is the opportunity to speak the mind of my people, which is also my mind, and say that yes, let us sit down and discuss. You see, right now, like if you look at the government that is in place today, if we see how the government evolved to become and to have Goodluck Jonathan as the president of Nigeria, it was something in the constitution that SNG, for instance, Save Nigeria Group, led by Pastor Tunde Bakari at that time, that came and said, this is what the constitution says. That part of the constitution worked. Nobody is arguing about that part of the constitution. And we said as a people of Nigeria that no, this is what the constitution says, the circumstances demands it, and therefore the vice president should become the acting president, and subsequently, if the situation gives way to that, which it finally did, may so rest in peace, Yaradua, then Jonathan stepped in. That's what the constitution. That's what the constitution said, and we have evolved along that. Now, besides that, there were other personal issues and regional issues and PDP issues that came up that is today tearing this country apart.
Let me also get your thoughts on this, because there are those who have got their fangs, I use that deliberately, in government from onset. How do we expect that they're just willing to just let it go, let's dialogue because of what we think should be? Isn't there some sort of, shouldn't there be a strategy? I mean, I did ask Alhaji Musa about that. Should we not be thinking about how should we go about this? Because they won't just have that conference as it is.
You see, the fundamentals that is affecting Nigeria today, that is not allowing Nigeria to move on, we have to address those issues. The issue of the constitution is one of those things. The issue of corruption is another one of those things. The issue of personal and regional grabbing is another thing. For instance, now take for instance, we had the issue of the militancy and the armed agitators in my region. And it's very clear to Nigerians and anybody, unless if you want to be unjust, that we had and still have a case. Put that aside. Today, you have the issue of Boko Haram. And may I also say here that as a group, whatever their issues are, whether you and I agree or disagree is not the point. The point is they have issues, and this is why the sitting down to talk is going to be very critical. Boko Haram has issues. We must listen to them. We must listen to what their issues are. They first started by saying they don't like Western education. Then they moved forward and said that they wanted their beliefs are around their religion, whether we perceive it as being extreme or not, is not a consequence to them. This is what they are saying. We must listen to them. But now we find ourselves in a position where it is killing people. Now, I disagree with that. I agree with the fact that they have an issue and it must be brought to the table. What I disagree with is their right to kill. And also, some people are now making excuses, like Sanusi. What Sanusi said is very incisive to bring the issue of derivation, to bring into what we're talking about as killings that is going on.
I don't know if you read the full text of that particular interview, because I had to take pain to go through it, and I think, well, we have to wait for Sanusi, but again, looks like people are actually misquoting Sanusi. He was actually talking about a whole lot before he made mention of all of that, but looks like everyone took that particular line. Well, it's left for Sanusi to comment. But now you talked about the Niger Delta, and you talk about the militancy or the agitators then, as you would like to call them. Now we have to go back again, because it looks like we've been going back and forth like a yo-yo in Nigeria. We thought it's a done deal there, quite settled with the Amnesty program. But with the new one resurfaced, talk about MEND and the AGIP and so many other warnings and press releases. Why do you think we haven't been able to at least fix that and now know that we're dealing with Boko Haram, but as it is now, we have two again in our hands? Not too good a story.
You see, unfortunately, I have come to see in Nigeria, because all my life has been spent here. There is nothing I'm not a stranger to this country. There is nothing anybody is going to tell me about Nigeria, apart from what happened before I was born. But even then, some of those things, I have looked them up. You see, we don't like to tell ourselves the truth.
Did the amnesty fail?
The amnesty, how can the amnesty have failed? When Yaradua offered, and the discussion for amnesty as to whether we should propose it to our people, and they put pressure on them to accept the amnesty or not. The output of oil was between 700 to 800,000 barrels per day. The oil companies were declaring force majeure because they were just not going to be able to make it. Nigeria was going to be bankrupt because, very simply, the only source of income it had was depleted, completely depleted. Now, when today, 2 years into the amnesty, you have Nigeria is now having an output of 2.7 million barrels per day, where you have people stealing billions and billions of naira. People, young men your age, young men the age of my first daughter, are sitting in television stations, at the inquiry, and telling Nigerians that they have received 30 billion naira for importing a subsidy for importing maybe 100 or whatever million liters of product into Nigeria, and that you and I are owing them even 10 billion. I am completely gobsmacked. I can't believe. Why is my name not there? Why are Niger Delta people's names not there?
Not part of
well, yes, my name should have been there, and I also should have been saying and then pack my files and walk out, because nothing is going to come out. Is going to come out of it. So that's the type of country that we're in.
They say they will.
Oh yeah, heads must roll, because we are watching. After this is over, we will see. Somebody like the past president Obasanjo, he should be asked. He was there when the subsidy was being paid. People like that, the past Minister of Petroleum, Lukman, the past directors of PPRA, people who were authorizing this payment. So you can see.
Well, I imagine that the committee is listening, so who knows what they'll do next. But in terms of this conference, do you think state governors, for instance, will support this forthcoming proposal of the summit?
It doesn't, but even the president does not have to support it. What has to drive it is you and I, the people of Nigeria. If the president says that we voted for him, and we did, I know for the first time in Nigeria, I was able to vote in 2011. Every other election, I was not able to vote. They had already voted by the time we woke up. So the point is, it is not going to be driven by the president. It is not going to be driven by governors. it is going to be driven by the people of Nigeria. If the people of Nigeria understand, they must understand the implications of not sitting down.
So why haven't they done it then?
Because you see, there are interests. There are interests, and we've become used to the word cabal. So there are cabal that has been stopping this sitting down to discuss.
I believe that conference, I mean, this is the only way to go. Dialogue is the only way to go.
The dialogue is the only way to go. But not just dialoguing with Boko Haram today, dialoguing with other groups today. Let every group come to. There is no group that does not have an issue in Nigeria today. Look at what's happening to the Igbos. They're killing Igbo people. People were sitting down discussing how they would take about 6 dead bodies home. And they came and killed about 12 or so people on that discussion. It's unbelievable. This is barbaric in a country like Nigeria. And that is what we're portraying to the world. And it is not acceptable anymore. We're too educated, too advanced of a people not to sit down and say, this is enough.
How do you think? So I know that we're going on break.
No, we're wrapping up.
Okay, but just quickly, it's time up, unfortunately. Wow. But how do you think this is going to work? How do you think that people will be able to come together of every ethnic group?
Yes.
Come together to one table and speak.
Yes.
With the different interests.
It's very simple. We must accept that we're already at ground zero. We have to start from the beginning. It is up to us how it is done. But we must agree on how it. See, if we keep saying, how are we going to do it, this and that, we won't do it. And we will still be running the constitution that we say is no longer acceptable to Nigerians. If you and I go to a restaurant, unless if you want to impose your will on me, and they always give you a menu and me a menu, and I choose. If we happen to choose the same thing, then that's okay. So it's basically as simple as that, as far as I'm concerned. Unless the greedy people don't want Nigeria to work. It's not you and I that don't want. People have called me all sorts of names because of certain publications that I put out. But it is in the interest of everybody that we agree on certain things or disagree on. We can disagree and Nigeria will still go on. But if we cannot agree, what is the problem to go the next stage and to say, you know what, this and this and this are the reasons?